were all taken aback when it was revealed that the sentencing guidelines were instructing judges to take an offender's ethnic background into account when sentencing. Even Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood has come out against this proposal.
As somebody who's of an ethnic minority background myself, I do not stand for any differential treatment before the law for anyone of any kind, and there will never be a two-tier sentencing approach under my watch or under this Labour government.
To find out where this leaves us and what happens next, I'm joined by barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, Stephen, there we have the Justice Secretary saying this would never happen under a Labour government. Of course, it is going to happen on April 1st, right?
Yes, let's get back to actual serious government. Unless she actually uses the powers she has, it's still going to happen. So we have what I call performative governments at the moment. She tried it in the beginning. So this came out. Obviously, anybody with half a brain can tell that this is wrong. It's deeply immoral and nobody wants it. It's against the rule of law.
Just to quickly explain it, for anybody who's not seen what the story is.
So it's the idea that judges will be told to get pre-sentencing reports, i.e. these reports that make your sentence lesser, that are more generous to you, they're kinder to you. If you get one, if you're ever a criminal, it'll be nicer for you. If you get one of these pre-sentencing reports, that's where suggestions of not going to prison will come from. You'll get one of these if you have from an ethnic minority, a cultural minority, and there were certain other, women get them apparently also by default, and that's another question for you, actually. What I do as a lawyer is say that this is fundamentally a political question. Who gets softer treatment by the justice system is a fundamentally political question. So it's really for you. It's not for lawyers to tell you. That's the mistake the Sentencing Council is making. It's how your society and our society is structured how we want our society to be. And that's not really for these alleged experts to sit there in some ivory tower pontificating. But when it came out, Shabana Mahmood's instant response was, oh, well, the Sentencing Council's got nothing to do with me. I can't possibly. And it's just, you are the Lord Chancellor. You are the Minister of Justice. Can we please grow up in this country and admit that our politicians have real and serious political power? She then, when I felt like she had to be pushed kicking and screaming to do this, but she did send a letter saying that she was terribly disappointed. So the Sentencing Council will, on Monday morning, open a letter saying, I'm terribly disappointed. Whether her being terribly disappointed or not changes anything, I don't know. What she should really do is abolish the Sentencing Council. Take these powers back.
So this is a quango that was started under Blair.
Under Blair, 2003, changed its name a bit later, but it effectively begins in 2003. And it's this philosophical idea that a council of experts will always get everything right. You don't need to listen to the public. And I'm a Democrat, so I'm fundamentally against this idea. I think it's absolute tosh. And really, they're just proving me right. Every one of these little quangos that goes out and does something completely disconnected from what ordinary people think, they just prove me right. And it's the Sentencing Council, they're the ones that are the reasons that the people with all the paedophilic images don't go to prison. Now, I'm dropping this on you as a bomb, but I raise this quite often with I raise it on telly as much as I can. I take the view that if you're a possession of paedophilic images, you should go to prison. And I think that's probably the majority feeling in this country. And I think that's probably where most of us are. If you have kids or are around kids, you want to protect kids. It's simply, I don't believe that any of us would get to the position where mass possession of paedophilic images would not go to prison. But that's what the Sentencing Council think.
Yeah, and this.
Why are they picking?
And it's coming from them and their suggestions. So you also have this mad situation where you have people, like you say, owning paedophilic images, not going to jail, but you have people putting out a meme going to jail for a couple of years.
Yes,
which is where this idea of two-tier justice comes from. Now, of course, when people were saying two-tier justice last summer with the riots, it was a right-wing conspiracy. Now it's become emboldened and enshrined in law, really.
Well, it's true. So I'm fed up of people calling things conspiracy theories if they're true. We really can't go down that route. We actually have to start admitting when things are where they are. And what's really interesting is the influence Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister has, because for many years he was the Director of Public Prosecutions. So he sat on this Sentencing Council and he went and he chatted to them. He went to their meetings. As Shabana Mahmood was supposed to, but didn't. She sent a representative. Yeah. And so she was aware this was going to happen. He had more influence as as a Labour-based person under a Conservative government, because he could talk to the Sentencing Council, then that, whatever the appropriate Lord Chancellor was at the time, I can't actually remember who the Conservative Lord Chancellors would have been then, but he had more influence because he went to that meeting. This is not on. We are a democratic nation. These are political questions, and they should be made by all of us getting together and agreeing what we want and what we don't want. Yeah. We're not vicious. We're not mean. I don't think we'll be bringing back the death penalty anytime soon. We'll just have a better country if this returns to politics.
Because the Sentencing Council have actually come out and seemingly kind of doubled down on it. They haven't sort of said, oh, we will change it. Actually, we got this bit wrong. They've kind of said, well, look, there's inequality of outcomes, so this is what we need to do to make it fair. But of course there are other reasons for inequality of outcome. In terms of one of the things that I read was that people from ethnic backgrounds were maybe going to be less likely to claim that they were guilty because they don't trust their government lawyers or they're provided by the state, and that's one of the issues, not trusting the system as much.
Yes, there's no proof that we have a terrible problem of racism in the judiciary. If we had a terrible problem of racism in the judiciary, I would want that solved. I'd want it fixed ASAP. I think every decent person in this country would want it fixed ASAP, but there is no evidence to actually prove this. But you wouldn't fix the problem of racism in the judiciary, if it existed, by simply punishing white people more. That's insane.
It is insane. Thank you so much for coming in. The story is going to continue. We'll speak about it again. Stephen Barrett. That is the end of the first hour. Mm-hmm. Anyway, our next question is from Duncan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Should we be allowed to burn the Quran?
Should we be allowed to burn the Quran or arrested for it? I'll explain this story first. A man arrested for burning a copy of the Quran in Bradford will not face charges following intervention by the Free Speech Union. The FSU intervened immediately, instructed a solicitor to defend the man and covered all his legal costs. Late last month, he learned he would no longer be facing any charges. Duncan, I understand that you want to do a protest now. But this is obviously, what do you think about this, Duncan? It's good news for free speech, right? I mean, I'm not saying that people should be doing this by any means, but this is good news for free speech.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and hold the mic up.
I believe it's good news for free speech, yes.
OK, thank you. I'm glad you lifted the mic up for that bit. Thank you, Duncan. Yes, so there's sort of been a spate of these, I would say, sort of 3 or 4 incidents. This has actually occurred before there was something in Manchester, then there was something in London recently. This occurred a while ago, and the fact that it took the Free Speech Union to step up to provide the legal means to defend this is somewhat worrying, because it is not against the law.
We don't have any blasphemy laws in this country anymore. We haven't had since I think it was 1998, and that's solely what this is about.
2008, I think.
2008. OK, I know it had an 8 in it, so I was close. But, I mean, burning the Quran is obviously a fairly vicious act, right? It's not a nice act. I wouldn't condone doing it myself.
I think burning any books.
Exactly. I mean, and I don't think there's any need to. However, we do stand, particularly on this channel and especially on this show, for protecting people's rights to do things like that. So I'm very pleased to see that this guy, interestingly, this guy's a Christian asylum seeker who was fleeing religious persecution in his country of origin, and has come to this country and found out that perhaps, you can't say what you like anywhere, mate.
No, seemingly not. This, by the way, seems to be, Adina, a sort of misuse of public order laws. So my understanding is that threatening somebody or abuse, that's illegal, but causing offence, of course, is legal.
Yeah, what he did again, terrible thing to do, very bad idea, but not imprisonable, not arrestable. I mean, imagine if somebody did a one-woman show where, let's say, I burnt the Bible. I'd probably get government money for it, 5-star reviews, so theatre run, wow, so edgy. So
no, I think people would be like, that's so dumb.
No, but I'll do it nude. I'll do anything to get it publicity. I'll sing, but. It is, they're pushing it, it's not fair. Perhaps this man is fleeing, as a lot of Christians are coming to this country who are under persecution from Islamist regimes, and he was making a genuine protest. He wasn't trying to just get into an Edinburgh show. So there is definitely not something you could do. The American flag, for instance, they're so proud of their flag, that's their thing, but they still...
They cause them great offence, but it's not
illegal. It's not illegal, yeah. Right.